Your unique story, our global audience. Global One Media.
Welcome, and thank you for tuning into another episode of our Stocks to Watch series from Global One Media, where we speak with senior leaders of companies across the board to help you make informed and intelligent investment decisions. I am Munir Barazi, your business analyst and host, and today I am pleased to welcome Tyrone Docherty, the president and CEO of First Tellurium, a company that is exploring and developing tellurium projects in British Columbia and Colorado. First Tellurium is publicly traded on the Canadian Securities Exchange as FTEL, on the OTC as FSTTF, and on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange as G1J. Hello, Tyrone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Could you provide a brief overview of First Tellurium, its origin, and its current mission and vision?
Well, yeah, First Tellurium was founded, I took it over in 2008. It was a company that didn't have any assets in it. So after I sold my previous company, it was sort of semi-retired, and I took over this one because of this phenomenal property in British Columbia called the Deerhorn, which is a high-grade gold and silver property, which just happens to have this mineral called tellurium, which is very critical. And I had never heard of it, but now I found out at the time it was very big in solar panels. And since then, there's been some other interesting applications as far as green energy goes. So we're very excited. And, as the audience should know that as far as tellurium goes, we're the only company on the planet, so to speak, that's been after it for a while. So we have a huge advantage there.
I want to ask you about the importance of tellurium in just a moment. But first, I was looking at your chart and I noticed several spikes and fluctuations throughout the years. Can you help explain to our viewers the drivers behind those movements?
Oh, right. Great question. I'm glad you asked me that. If people look and see that, for a few years, we're relatively benign trading, between 15, 20 cents a share. And then on January 26th of 2022, our stock took off crazily. And the reason for that is that we put the news release out about this lithium tellurium battery the University of British Columbia had patented. And what we had done 2 weeks before that, we went listed on the Frankfurt Exchange because we know that Europeans are farther ahead of us than North Americans when it comes to green energy, and they would embrace this better than us. So when we put it out, that's exactly what happened. The volumes increased from an average, we were averaging about 500,000 shares a month. I think for the next month when we put it out, we're averaging somewhere between 2 million to 5 million shares a day. And our stock went from 18 cents on the day we put out the news release to 70 cents on that same day, and then backed off to about between 55 and 65 cents for a month on very good volume. And we raised some money using that. And then about a month later, I woke up one morning and looked, and my stock had crashed. I thought, what the heck is going on? And then I turned on the news, and that was the morning that Russia had invaded Ukraine. So obviously the European investors, especially the Germans, were selling their shares because they didn't know where they're going to get their money. And frankly, I don't blame them. But that's the reason why it happened. And as a matter of fact, if anyone thinks, oh, did the company know anything? No, I actually bought, I think, on the way up, 40,000 shares at 48 cents. So I'm still holding that. I haven't sold a single share. So it just so happened. So who knows where we'd be now if there hadn't been that, because of all the demand for green energy that, we're the only tellurium company out there. So I think we'd be much higher than that if that hadn't happened. But you have to deal with the cards that you dealt. So just what it's allowed me to do, because I had a couple extra bucks from my other deals, is that I bought shares cheaper than I thought I would a year and a half ago. So much the better, right?
Well, sentiment has been known to move prices, but it seems that the fundamentals of your company are sound.
Oh, I agree. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't put my family money into anything that I think is too risky. We're sitting on something that's good, and patience does pay off.
Let's focus on that. Your projects contain several minerals, gold, silver, but you focus on tellurium. Tell us a bit more about its significance and its applications.
Yeah, well, the one reason we focus on it is that, we have, like you say, high-grade gold and silver up there, but not huge deposits that gold companies come by and say, hey, we need to take over this company because they got, 5 million ounces of gold. That's not the case. And we focus on tellurium because that's what separates us from everyone else. 90%, 90% of tellurium comes from copper refining. 10% in the world comes from in situ properties such as ourselves. So we've got two of the top properties in the world for tellurium. So that's been our focus, because those who need tellurium will have to come to the people that have it. Whether, if you're a lithium company, people that need lithium will see you, graphite. We're the only ones in town. And what makes it interesting is, as I mentioned, we took it over back in 2009. Tellurium was very important in solar panels for the mixture cadmium tellurium, which is the main use of United States' biggest company, First Solar. So they say they're going to need more tellurium and starting next year than the whole world produces, which is great. But then recently, about a year and a half ago, the University of British Columbia filed a patent for a lithium tellurium battery, which I've been told is far superior to a lithium ion battery. So as we get into the green energy, people understand, well, batteries are the way of the future. So you actually have a battery that's far superior to the gold standard, as it were, you're going to get lots of attention. And it's not just a minimal better. For example, for the batteries, we're told it's like 4 times more powerful, much easier to charge, lasts twice as long, and size-wise. We're told here's the size of a lithium ion battery, so to speak. Okay, there you go. And here's the size of a lithium tellurium battery, which again is more powerful, and you can measure it in thumb to forefinger. So the question is, what would that do for weights of automobiles, airlines, whatever the case is? Obviously, really advantage. And then the fifth and final reason is that it's a solid state battery, which means it cannot catch fire. Lithium batteries can and do catch fire, as was just referenced 2 weeks ago, that big ship coming out of Holland, the 3,000 cars sunk because a couple of cars caught fire. It's not the first time it's happened. So I say to shareholders, if you can imagine that the only advantage between ourselves and lithium ion was it didn't catch fire, I'm sure insurance companies and automobile companies like to talk about it. So that's what sort of opened up our eyes to these new possibilities. And then it's very important in thermoelectrics. So our company, 3 or 4 months ago, started a subsidiary. We own 51% of a thermoelectric company and 49% owned by an engineer/inventor in the US who believes he's got a better mousetrap, so to speak, with his invention to help the solar industry and the automobile industry. And a lot of it's based on the tellurium. That's why he sought us out. So it's very, very important going forward, and we feel very comfortable with what we're doing.
Wonderful. And to hear that this battery is more effective than the lithium-ion battery sounds very promising, especially in light of the green transition. And I imagine this would get a lot more attention as we progress in that direction. You mentioned that you have 2 exploration projects currently you're working on. Can you tell us a bit more about those projects and their potential? What excites you the most about those assets?
Well, first of all, like I said, we got 2 world-class properties, because you look at First Solar, who needs tellurium for their solar panels. They did a worldwide expedition starting in 2006 for 3 years, looking for potential properties around the world. And they looked at over 100 in North America alone, and they said the Klondike Property in Colorado, which is ours, was the best by far, and the numbers exceeded tremendously. But also in 2012, at a conference in Cologne, Germany, for a minor metals conference that was sponsored by First Solar, they talked about 4 properties around the world that thought were very, very interesting to get developed. And there was 1 in China, 1 in Mexico, 1 in Sweden, and ourselves in Canada. And they said that at the conference, they didn't trust China, they didn't trust Mexico, so that left Canada and Sweden. And the Swedish property was sold, I think, a year and a half later. I don't know who bought the tellurium. I'm guessing it was First Solar, but I don't know that to be a fact. So we have that as well on our portfolio, if you will. And what makes it exciting is right now we're concentrating, most of our work right now is on the property in Canada, because it's the most advanced. And so we have a high-grade gold and silver property that the tellurium is included with. And it just so happens that last October, 8 months ago, our qualified person, Dr. Lee Groth, professor at UBC, world famous, he walked the property and actually extended it from 2.4 kilometers to 3.5 kilometers, and it's still open. But interesting enough, on the other side of the mountain, he confirmed that we're sitting on a copper porphyry, which is still the greenest of all metals. So if you can imagine a small company like ourselves have all these wonderful minerals, and that's sort of the The problem I have to deal with is people say, well, if you have all these things, why are you only trading at a $10 million market cap? And I say, well, I went through this before with my last company, Quinto Mining, where I took it over at $4 million, and I was lucky enough to sell it 11 years later for $175 million. And we took cash in the company that bought it. Sorry, took shares in the company that bought us. They sold 2 years after that for $4.9 billion, which made our enterprise value $1 billion. And we just build our companies properly. That's why we make sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's. We're not in it for the quick flip. I'm the largest shareholder. I don't sell. If anyone wants to look at the insider report, so maybe I don't know what I'm doing, but I kind of think I know what I'm doing. So why would I sell at these levels if I think it could be worth much more? And more advancements in the green energy for tellurium and the copper and the gold and silver, the better we're going to be.
There's plenty of opportunity in those properties, and it seems that you know what you're doing and that you're the right person to lead this company to a higher valuation. Tell us a bit more about your partners. You mentioned that you're the only company who is doing what you are doing. Tell us a bit more about your advantage and your partners and how they're helping you advance your projects.
Well, one of our main partners is called Fenix Advanced Material, and that's Phoenix with an F, F-E-N-I-X, out of Trail, British Columbia. They're one of the top ultra high purity manufacturers in the world. They do what's called 7N technology, which is 99.99999% purity. And, they've been dealing with special minerals for years, and they approached us originally about 5 years ago saying, hey, we've read the reports. You guys are sitting on some interesting tellurium there. We're looking for new sources outside of China. Can we sort of measure up with you and see what's going on? So it just so happens that the CEO of Phoenix Advanced Material is on my advisory board, just as I put 4 gentlemen that used to work with First Solar on my advisory board. So we've got the solar angle taken care of and the battery angle taken care of, because I'm not an engineer, I'm not a geologist, I'm just a businessman / entrepreneur. So I like to surround myself with really bright people. So I'll ask them, tell me what is the news, good or bad, and we'll deal with it. So we got Phoenix Advanced Material, and one of our partners, which we don't talk a lot about, is that we're involved with a First Nations mining company called Cheona Metals. And with Cheona Metals, we work with placer miners in Yukon and now the rest of Canada, but starting in Yukon. And we deal with the placer miners. We get their gold sold at a premium to 2 companies in the United States. I'm sure everyone's heard of Apple and Tiffany and Company. And they pay a premium, and the premium is then put back into the lake or the river, the stream, whatever the case is, rehabilitated, and then we introduce salmon and other wildlife there, and no one's allowed to mine it again. And my understanding is that Apple has a blockchain to be able to show their customers where the gold has come from. So we make a little bit of money about that, but it's a matter of helping the environment and doing the right thing. So we feel very good. It's not our main focus. But when a company like Apple embraces you, it kind of says to the rest of the world, these guys are different than a lot of the juniors.
Sounds like a great alliance to be a part of. My final question, what are the upcoming catalysts that you feel investors should pay attention to? Why is now the right moment to consider First Tellurium as an investment?
Well, because we just started our exploration program for the first time in about 5 years, and we bought our own drill. Earlier this year from a company in Alaska, brand new drill, who insisted that we did not give them cash. They only wanted shares because one of their business partners had walked the property and phoned them and said, hey, you got to get hold of shares of this company. They're unbelievable. So we're going to be drilling it, I think, in September. As I mentioned, we've extended it by foot and how big the area is. But also now that we've proven that we have this copper porphyry, we'll do a little bit of drilling at the copper side just to show the big boys we have what we have. And what I've said to people and to the audience here is that, in my opinion, and again, it's just my opinion, not the company's official opinion, I think we're going to get bought out before we go into production. But the question I have difficulty answering, well, is it going to be someone that needs tellurium for solar panels because there's a big supply crunch? Is it going to be someone that needs it for these new lithium tellurium batteries that will get on the market in not too distant future, automobile companies, whatever the case? Or is it going to be a copper company that says, hey, now you've proven it up, 2 years from now, if it's much, much bigger, that comes in and says, we want it because copper is in high demand. And I say, look, it doesn't matter to me. It's like selling real estate, right? If you have more than one person wanting to buy your house, you're in a better position. And I should mention to the people that when I sold my last company for the $175 million that we took in paper, The negotiations lasted all of 10 minutes. It wasn't 10 days, wasn't 10 weeks, it wasn't 10 months. Mm-hmm. They needed the property. It was good for my shareholders, and we sold, and everyone did very, very well. So I don't like to belabor the point. If you follow the movie Field of Dreams, we build it properly, people will come with big checks that don't bounce. And we've done our job for the shareholders. That's why I don't sell. I think we're sitting on something tremendous, and people can check the insider reports and see for themselves. But when you're dealing with the only company in the world dealing with something like Tellurium, you're pretty good because, graphite's great, lithium's great, cobalt's great, but there's dozens of those companies. We're the only one, and people are starting to find out about it. So we're very excited, and I'm glad to be at the helm of this company. I think we can do wonderful things.
Well, you're in a great position, and the value speaks for itself. Tyrone Docherty, the president and CEO of First Tellurium, thank you so much for sharing all of those insights and updates. We look forward to sharing more with our audience.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.